But as we move forward and we talk about the Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry said it. You know, you've heard the Haslam say it. You've heard Todd Monken say it. The offense needs to be fixed, and that the Cleveland Browns planned on spending a lot of their resources this offseason on the offensive side of the ball. We all know how players are acquired in this league, Cecil, via trade, via free agency, and via of the draft. And right now, of course, the Cleveland Browns, you know, they just made a trade for a few former Houston Texans offensive lineman, signed him to a new deal. I can only assume that they looked at the upcoming free agent market or whatever happened at the combine and said, you know what, this is the best course of action for us. So just seeing where the Cleveland Browns are as a football team, me and you kind of had a discussion about guys that's on our personal wish list, guys that we feel like could be a fit for the Cleveland Browns and might even be a legit, realistic option. So, I'll let you start first. Who was the primary guy when we had this conversation that you said, you know what, I would love to see the Cleveland Browns go after?
Well, when you let me start here. When you bring in a guy like Titus Howard, he's somebody that can play guard tackle, right? He brings
Hmm.
some versatility to the game. He's solid. He's solid. Not a superstar, but he's somebody that can get the job done, and does it at a high level when his number is called. He's been a staple for the offensive line with the Texans for a while, right? He's kind of been the only guy that's been consistent over the years. Him and Laramie Tunsil, till they got rid of Laramie Tunsil, that's kind of been around and been able to get the job done. So you bring him in, somebody that can get the job done. That kind of helps your offensive line, helps your quarterback, helps your running game, right? So you get a little bit more confidence. But to continue to add to that, I think you need Tyler Linderbaum, and the familiarity that he has running a offense with Coach Monken. You know what I mean? I think that's critical to have somebody that understands what it needs to be done, how it needs to be done, in the offense, the same terminology, literally the same type of stuff that he ran in Baltimore, he'll be running here. So I think it'll only benefit him as a player, because that's one of the hard things to do when you go from one city to the next city playing for a team, like understanding different terminology, understanding how they want things done, understanding the culture, understanding different leadership roles, understanding all this stuff. Well, he already knows what to do because he's been a part of the organization with Todd Monken. So I think he would be critical, man. He's somebody that's 25 years old, I think, and is just a stud at his position. So if you can bring him in, it doesn't matter what's going on. You should feel a lot more confident going into the year with Titus Howard on one side and then Tyler in the middle.
Yeah, I think we've talked about Tyler Linderbaum on our show in the past. I know I've talked about him on other platforms. I don't know how likely it is that the Cleveland Browns can sign Tyler Linderbaum. It's going to cost you a whole lot of money. And I think if the Browns have the money to throw at that problem, I absolutely 1000% would make that move. He's young. He's an all pro, Pro Bowl center, very smart, very intelligent. As you alluded to, he knows what Todd Monken wants to do, and he can help be that on-field coach to kind of help teach up those young offensive linemen like a Zach Zinter, for example, who has struggled to get on the field when Kevin Stefanski was the head coach. ESPN has him ranked as their number 2 overall free agent this year out of 100. And it says, what does he bring? Linderbaum brings a tone-setting mentality to the interior of the front, using elite foot speed and body control to match pass rushers or climb to the second level in the run game. His pass block win rate of 97.2%, tied for the second among 31 qualifying centers last season. You got Howard there, and I love Howard's versatility. He can play tackle or guard, which kind of gives you flexibility when it comes to guys like Zach Zinter or Dewan Jones, pending his health. You got Linderbaum there. Let's say that Shador Sanders, by all accounts, is your starting quarterback for 2026. You got a young quarterback, second year in the NFL, first year inside the Todd Monken system. You want somebody on the offensive line that can call the checks at the line of scrimmage, that can slide the protection and help your young quarterback not go through as many growing pains learning a new system that some people would. So me, I can definitely see Tyler Linderbaum being high on your list. He's high on my list. I have heard the reports that the Ravens is throwing a boatload of money at him, and the New York Giants are players as well. When it comes to the wide receiver position, you had a wide receiver out there. I looked at the wide receiver list. First of all, let me say this. According to Spotrac, right, when I look at these unrestricted free agents, the one guy that you mentioned, at first glance, is the only guy that really, really interests me as far as he's a baller, and I feel like he can come in here and make an immediate impact. We'll talk about him. There are two guys on this list in my mind to where I like the element of the unknown sometimes, right? When we talk about certain players, I kind of think I have an idea of who they are. Then there's certain guys to where it's like, they still young enough. We don't know who they are. But the one guy that you brought up just won his first Super Bowl, Rashid Shaheed. You look at the 2025 season, 59 receptions, 687 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's all through the air. We all know he's a beast in the return game. He's one of those dual threats, man. He kind of reminds you of a mini Percy Harvin in so many ways, man. So, talk about Rashid Shaheed and why you feel like that'll be the right fit for the Browns.
I think two reasons. One, you need an explosive playmaker on offense, and he's a quality deep threat. Just that simple. Quality deep threat. He can take the top off of any defense. Two, this is probably why I picked him, honestly. Two, special teams. Your special teams with the Cleveland Browns were flat out terrible in every aspect. It was games where we fumbled punts 2 times in a row. There were games where we missed field goals. There were games where we were blocked. Like, it was just unbelievable. So I think it's going to be a point of emphasis moving forward. But when you put a playmaker back there like Shaheed, who anytime he touches the ball, he can take it to the house. Anytime he touches the ball, he's a threat. So not just a threat on first, second, and third down. He's a threat when the other teams have fourth down. So I think it's a really big deal that you're able to get that done, possibly. But is he the most polished receiver? No, he's not. He's not. But you would have to use him for that. You would use him for the deep shots, the big post, the goes down the field, the explosive plays going. And I think that can help you. But for me, I picked him because I think he's more realistic to get, right? I think if you look, I think Alex Pierce possibly is a big name out there from the Colts. Explosive as well, but I think he'll go for a ton of money somewhere. If it's not the Colts, somewhere else with a big time money. I think Shaheed's more realistic for you to get a big threat down the field, return game specialist, and then you can continue to add depth with either in a draft or possibly free agency.
So when I consider what Andrew Berry likes to do as far as when he signs free agents, the type of free agents he signed, the age, things like that, I see Shaheed as being one of those guys who fit the bill. Not only that, he's a slot wide receiver. And I think Titans did a great job of, kind of laying out how important that slot wide receiver is in Todd Monken's system. And he's a guy that has, he can impact the game because he's a gamer. He's a baller. He always can get the ball in his hands and be able to make a play. Big play ability, big play threat. And that's something that the Browns lack, that explosiveness, right? You look at the other receivers out here, and I can't really see somebody. I mean, Alec Pierce, yeah, but I really feel like the Colts is going to do whatever they can to try to hold on to him.
Yep.
If I'm going a free agent route, because I got a couple guys that I would trade for, but if I was going a free agent route and I was taking a flyer on somebody, Jahan Dotson is a guy that I might want to take a flyer on. He about 6'1", 6'2", come out of Penn State, played in the Big Ten. We seen him his rookie year in Washington. It wasn't that bad. I don't know what happened the first 2 years there to where he ended up off that team and in Philly. We all know how Philly's offense is. It's more of a run-dominant offense. You're really not getting too many opportunities with the wide receivers that they do have here. Dallas Goedert is a huge part of their passing game. And so I don't know. I mean, he's 25 years old. I think that would be a guy that I would definitely be interested in signing to maybe a 1-year, 2-year deal and see if I can get something out of him. Another guy that is on this list, former first-round pick, Trey Burke. He just played for the Titans. Didn't really pan out to be much of anything. But, again, another big body wide receiver, a guy that I think that can be very physical, and I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on. Now, earlier today, we both know that the Buffalo Bills traded for DJ Moore. They ended up giving up a second-round pick. I thought that was a solid move. I actually wouldn't even be surprised if Stephon Diggs ends up back in Buffalo as well, by the way, or a guy like a Mike Evans, because I think, honest to God, I think they're doing whatever they can to make sure that Josh Allen got more weapons on that side of the ball.
Good.
And it can't be excuses. No matter how good Josh Allen is, man, his pass catchers was not all of that. And you seen that he really needed that. But speaking of Buffalo, I'm thinking about a trade for a Keon Coleman. I am like intrigued with the youth. I'm intrigued with the size. The dude is 6'4", over 200 pounds. I'm intrigued with the athleticism. He does need to take his career a little bit more serious than what he does. What he do, he does need to be a little bit more mature. He needs to, be a little bit more responsible with everything that entails being a professional athlete. I think he is young enough, and a fresh start just might do him some justice. And I feel like he is one of those guys that kind of fit the mold of what Andrew Berry likes to take a chance on. He might look at that like, I can trade a fifth round pick, fourth round pick for Coleman. It's one of those low risk, high reward type situations. I think he'll have another year or so left on this rookie contract. If it don't work out, you can just move on for him. But that's a guy that really, really intrigues me. I think he's very, very passionate. I just think that he needs to learn how to be a pro. But I do think it's a good football player in there. What you think?
I think that's interesting. Who's the receiver coach for the Browns?
Christian Jones got promoted from tight ends coach to wide receivers coach.
So he was already on staff last year.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. Definitely the talent is there. I think the biggest thing is who else is going to be in that room to help him develop as far as maturity wise, right?
Mhm.
That's where you need the big homies, right? That's where you need the older vets in the room because the talent speaks for itself. My gosh, like there's nothing he can't really do. It's just about him mentally staying into it, being mentally tough, and then learning how to continue to be a professional, right? Coming into the league, everybody loved his silliness, everybody loved his outgoingness, right? But at some point, you have to learn, like you have to balance that with production on the field, and when that outweighs your production, then you become your value goes down, right?
Yeah.
So he just needs to learn. I'm with you. I'm not against taking the flyer on him. I just think he can't be the only one you bring in, if that makes sense. He has to come in with some other guys that help him out in that room because that room is young, if I'm not mistaken. That room is
very young.
Really no quality. I just say really no experienced vets in that room besides Jerry Jeudy, really. So yeah, I would love to take a flyer on him. I think he'll be cheap. I think you can get him for less than a fourth or a fifth rounder. Honestly, I think you might get him for a sixth or a seventh. That's just me because of all the stuff we heard in the media, right? So if you can get him for cheap, man, you in good shape because like you said, it's only up. He doesn't work out great on a rookie deal. You can cut him, not that much money at all. But if he turns out like he's supposed to, former second round pick, that shows some glimpses his rookie year. Like, hey, now you got some big body guy has played in the cold before, can go up and get the ball. Somebody that's physical that can block. Like the talent is there. Like you mentioned, though, just about the maturity and him learning how to be a pro. And you need a top-notch receiver coach, and you need some veterans in that room. So if that receiver coach can step up and really do good things with him, great. If you can bring in a vet or two on top of Jerry Jeudy to help him out, I think. And the vet don't got to be a starter, right? The vet can be a 5 guy, 6 guy. There's somebody that can help him come along and grow.
All right. So before we get out of here, I just want to go through a couple of lists real quick. So Zach Jackson of The Athletic, he dropped a list with 26 players that he connected to the Cleveland Browns, said nothing is absolute. I put together a list of a few offensive linemen, a few wide receivers. Since we're talking wide receivers, we might as well stay there. Here's 4 guys that ended up on that list from Zach Jackson of The Athletic. Wan'Dale Robinson, Michael Pittman Jr., Keon Coleman, Romeo Doubs. And of this list, I think Wan'Dale Robinson is a baller, but I have no interest in a 5'8" wide receiver.
Yeah.
We just talked about Keon Coleman. I think Romeo Doubs is going to cost too much. Michael Pittman Jr. is another guy that is intriguing to me. I think that Alec Pierce is going to be their top priority. And, based on what I read, they are going to prioritize re-signing him, which clearly means that Michael Pittman becomes available for trade. Again, another big body wide receiver who can be a red zone target for you and somebody that can just get physical. I am tired of either these short wide receivers or these guys that don't really have no muscle mass to them, right? I want me another big physical wide receiver, and the Browns got the opportunity to might be able to do that. Couple offensive linemen that was kind of linked to the Browns, and kind of like check this out: Braxton Jones, Alijah Vera-Tucker, Daniel, I think it's Foley, and Cade Mays. Now, Cade Mays played guard, tackle, and he played some center. So if we can't sign Tyler Linderbaum, Mays comes with a lot of versatility. But Alijah Vera-Tucker is the guy that stands out to me the most. He did not play in 2025. I think he's like 25 years old, man. If you check out his PFF grades from the 2024 season, he graded out as a pretty damn good tackle. And I think that, again, he fits the mold of one of these guys that the Cleveland Browns always like to give chances to. Guys either coming off injuries looking to prove something, or guys who really just didn't have success at their previous stop looking to probably revitalize their career. If you could somehow sign that guy, probably still get you another offensive lineman in the draft, now you're doing exactly what Andrew Berry talked about the Chicago Bears doing. You are going to get the opportunity to develop the young guys that's here. That's the Luke Whippler. That's the DeJuan Jones, right? Now you got Titus Howard that you traded for. You don't know the status of Joe Bitonio right now. You still got Zach Zinter here. And if you can add a lineman or two via free agency, then, you know, that'll work. Another offensive lineman that came up, and a guy that I know that you liked a lot, was the offensive tackle from the Green Bay Packers, Rashid Walker, who could be another option for the Cleveland Browns. As we get ready to wrap up this show, do you see the Cleveland Browns adding another offensive lineman via free agency, another one coming via trade? How you see that playing out? Who you like?
I think you gotta bring in 2 or 3. Like I think you can't go into this season and you need offensive line help. I think before the draft you got to bring in 2. One of them got to be a guy that you believe can be a day one starter. The other one probably compete for a spot, right? I think you like what you see from your younger guys, but they haven't been consistent. They haven't been healthy enough, right? DeJuan Jones is somebody so intriguing to me, but he has not lasted a full season yet.
Right.
So you got to bring in somebody that can be consistent, that can be healthy. Your best ability is your availability. So finding guys that can be available for you week in and week out. And then honestly, I'm not against bringing in 4 total, maybe 2 in free agency, 1 through a trade, and 1 or 2 through a draft. Right? So you got to bring in guys. You have to bring in quality guys to be able to compete and protect your quarterback and be able to run the football. So I think you have to address that. That's probably the main thing you have to address outside of receiver. O-line and receiver, you have to fix those things coming into this year.